Okay, so today we're gathering with my friend Maggie Kelley, who runs the incredible Bravo focused Instagram account, Best of Bravo. Maggie and I have gotten closer over the years after spending time with one another the last two Bravo cons, and I just love all of her coverage she does all around our favorite shows. So I'm pumped to have her here today. Maggie, thanks for doing this. How are you?
Hey, good. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, we've had some nights together, I feel like.
We sure have. That's for sure. Yeah. I think it's but with BravoCons, the Ultimate Girls Trip
hmm
in New York,
Yeah, that was a
it's
night.
been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
Sure was.
100%. Okay, so I sent you a list of shows that I want to talk about. It's most of the current ones that
Yeah.
are airing, that are in kind of they're all in different stages. But you're my guest, so I want you to pick what we start with. Beverly Hills, Miami, Potomac, Vanderpump, Summer House. Where do we want to start?
Okay, well, I just watched the Miami reunion and honestly, I think it's my favorite franchise right now.
Same.
It is so good. The cast is flawless, and oh, my ring light died. The cast is flawless, and there's like no one I would change on the cast, you
Same.
know? So I absolutely love it. I even love, I mean, I think Larsa's an amazing housewife. She brings the chaos and the mess that is so needed for a show. And there's not anything I would change. So I
Yeah.
love Miami.
Yeah, same. No, I say this to people. I'm like, listen, do I agree with everything Larsa says or does? Of course not.
Oh,
Like
God, no.
like there's probably nobody that does, but what would we I mean, she brings us so much in terms of instigating
Yeah.
and stonewalling and like just kind of she's almost like a riddle that's like that nobody can really solve because I think that she doesn't even really know exactly how to solve it. And so it's this I love it. I think that she is they're all necessary really, but
Oh,
she's
yeah.
amazing.
I was laughing so hard when she brought up the having sex 5 times a night again. I'm just like, get out of here. And Andy, Andy is all over that too. He's like, there's just no way. And he's like, well, all I want to talk about is the fact that Michael Jordan is Marcus's dad. I'm like, same. That's all I want to talk about. It's like my Roman Empire because I love,
Yes.
like, I grew up watching sports. So I'm like, the fact that Michael Jordan son is dating Larsa is just like it's actually insane. And she's like, well, no one, we don't talk about anyone else's dad. It's like, well, no shit, no one else's
Well,
dad's
no,
Michael Jordan.
well, no shit. Yeah, exactly. And it's also sort of
Like,
because Miami's not one of those cities where like the husbands like come to the reunion every year. Like they aren't necessarily
yeah,
like like full characters on the show necessarily. But like Marcus kind of is. Like he films a lot with her. Like he's around and he's part of it. And so like now she kind of wants the selective treatment of like
hmm,
not talking about that aspect of it because they don't have a good answer for it. And so it's this kind of like circle that's like feeding itself almost.
it's a mess.
It's a mess. And then I'm also kind of excited about Larsa versus Alexia. I feel like it's this like they've been aligned for the past several seasons. Like I mean for most of their
Yeah,
time, but like now that you really think about it, I mean we saw the kernel of that in the Mexico City trip, like where she was like not everybody has a Todd or whatever it was. Um,
hmm.
but it makes sense that they are kind of eventually at this point where they are at odds with one another. What did you make of that of the fight that we saw the beginnings of on this part?
Oh yeah, I am so ready for it because I love Alexia, so I
Same.
I don't know. I'm kind of like an Alexia stan, and so I think it's been like kind of like a long time coming, and I feel like the Miami girls, like Alexia and Marisol, Lisa, like Larsa, all the ones that were on in the beginning, they all
hmm
kind of band together, even if they don't agree, which is interesting because I feel like no other franchise really does that,
Yeah.
and so when they started arguing and Andy was recording himself listening to the argument, I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna get good. I think next week is gonna
Oh my
be
God.
a really good reunion.
The other thing about Miami, I mean, part two, we're going to see Lisa kind of be in the hot seat. And she had a tough season this season, I think, for
She did.
multiple reasons. I don't mind hearing about Lenny. I mean, it's probably different when you're sitting at the dinner table with her and where she's always bringing it up. Like,
Yeah.
it's probably different. But I I think it's still like very compelling and like I understand why she brings it up. It's the main thing happening in her life, all these things. Um, but it started to turn a little bit for me with the Mexico trip, the boat ride, the stuff with Kiki. That is where it got a little bit like, okay, I would love if Lisa could like step outside of her bubble for like 2 seconds and just kind of see it from somebody else's perspective. What do you think about where Lisa's standing right now on the show?
Yeah, Lisa, I feel like had a really rough season, and I like Lisa,
Yeah, so do
and I
I.
feel I feel bad for her. I mean, Lenny is the absolute worst, and I agree. I do find it all compelling, but the boat ride and just not thinking of anyone besides herself. It's kind of like, look, everyone else has things going on too, and I understand when you're obviously you think your issue is always going to be the most important, or just like
Yes,
anything like that, but I feel like she's lost the plot a little bit, and she's had a rough season, and I feel like she's gonna have a rough like reunion as well.
I
And
know.
I think she can come back from it. But
Yeah, no, I think
she has empathy, unlike I feel like Larsa sometimes lacks. She
yes,
really lacks that.
and I
But
think that Lisa has some like really genuine emotional connections on the group. Like I love her and
yeah,
Adriana have like a cute little friendship that like is clearly a lot like there'll be these little moments where like everyone's like hounding on Adriana and then Lisa's sort of the one to stick up for her. So like there are
yeah.
moments where Lisa like really can feel for other people, but I just with it she would feel that for somebody like Kiki, where it's like Kiki was a
Yeah.
really supportive friend for Larsa and Lisa for a long time. And so it's like, and Kiki's having this like amazing second half of the season where she's like really stepping into it.
Oh yeah. She's
It's
killing
so I
it.
wish that I think Lisa and Larsa are kind of being on the wrong side of history when it comes to Kiki right now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean Kiki is killing it. I wish she was a full-time cast member. I'm not really sure why she isn't. Although Miami, I feel like
It's
it
hard.
is one of those franchises where it's like, I mean, either is like Marisol or Adriana. So they have obviously amazing like friends of, but yeah, Kiki's had an amazing second half of the season, and I feel like they're going to look back and be like, wow, we
I know.
did not handle that
I know.
right.
And I could see her being promoted next season. So then that kind of
Same.
even more kind
Changes the
of
game.
yeah, totally. And they I love this cast. I don't want any of them to leave, but I do think that like one little change like that could actually impact it
Yeah.
in a big way. So we'll see
Yeah.
on Miami.
Oh,
But
love it.
it really is the best one right now. I'm obsessed.
The best. The best one. It's the one I look forward to the most every single week. It's just I would change. I just don't want any of them to go.
Don't want
Like
any of them
I
to
need
go.
them
I agree.
all to be there in some capacity next year.
It's a perfect formula right now, I think.
Yeah. So good.
Okay, so let's do Beverly Hills, which was the other
Okay.
part one of the reunion that aired
Mm-hmm.
on Wednesday. I loved this
Mm.
first part. To me, my main takeaway was like it hammered home that Crystal, I think, really stepped into it. It's kind of similar to Kiki, actually. Like she stepped into the
Yeah.
game a little bit more this season. She had a couple big moments for herself, mostly with Anna Marie. How are you feeling about Crystal after this first part of the reunion?
I thought Crystal had a great first episode. I think she really shined. I mean, she really put Dorit in her place. And the thing with Dorit, I feel like she genuinely does not realize some of the things that she says. And I I'm like, girl, you got to learn. Like you can't just say everything you want. And I feel like Crystal really like she really drove it home, especially when she was like, well, I got married at 24, like I wasn't 12, and I have $100 million business. It's like it's kind of it shut Dorit up really quick, because it's like, where's her business? And
Yep.
she wasn't 12, so I think Dorit had a really I think Dorit had a really rough season. And I historically liked Dorit, but also
Same. Yeah.
I'm kind of indifferent, I guess, right now.
I know, I
So
know.
I can't. Yeah,
I've historically really liked her, and actually for the past couple seasons, like liked her even more than I had before.
yeah,
But this season, she just is, again. It's I guess it's similarly to like it's kind of a similar issue with Lisa. It's like they don't really want to step out of their bubble and like
no,
like it's one thing to say something that's problematic and then hear the constructive criticism and then change it and agree with it. But they both are kind of unwilling to do that.
yeah, yeah, it's true. And I think Dorit, I, I don't know. I mean, Crystal, Garcelle, I feel like there's been others. I mean, even Kyle, she's kind of in a weird place with a lot of people.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting, because I do feel like she does kind of live in a bubble sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is similar to Lisa. And that's one thing with Miami. Like Alexia came and watched Robbins live and was like, hey, like I didn't like the way I acted. I watched myself back, and like I want to grow from that. And I thought
Yeah.
that was great that Alexia did that. And I feel like someone like Dorit necessarily can't do that.
Yeah, no, I exact. That's a really, it's a
Yeah.
it's a similar situation, and they're both responding to it in very different ways, which I think is
Yeah.
it's of note. And then the other thing with Dorit is
Yeah.
like her and Kyle's friendship is,
Oh,
I think this part's really intriguing to me because it gets into like the on camera, off camera of it all, where it like, I
right.
mean, I don't know, you pay so much attention to all these things. It's like, to me, it felt like Dorit and Kyle were hanging out a lot off camera, and like they would take trips and get lunches that weren't filmed, but clearly like it wasn't as much as we thought it was. You know what I mean? Like clearly, like every I'm guessing that every time they ever hung out, like there was a social media documentation of that. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
with Kyle's best friends, like in her group chat with Morgan and Teddy, like they probably hang out all the time and never post about it. So it's interesting because it's like they say they don't. She says they don't hang out off camera. At BravoCon,
Yeah.
they were like attached to the hip. I felt like they were always together. Like
Yeah.
they were like coming in as like the chic Beverly Hills ladies. But it's clearly turning pretty rapidly. What do you make of this whole Dorit Kyle friendship situation?
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought they were like best friends. I thought they did a lot off camera. I did think they traveled together, all of that. But clearly, like when Kyle kind of brought that up, Dorit, she really didn't say much. So I do tend to believe what Kyle was saying, and I think obviously in Kyle's all of her changes, she does focus so much on like working out and hiking
Yeah.
and doing all those things, and Dorit doesn't do any of that. And I don't know how they'll come back necessarily. Also, I think a big factor was Mauricio and PK. And now that Kyle and Mauricio aren't together,
That's a
I
good
feel like
point.
that's a huge factor as well. Because I think Mauricio and PK genuinely are like really good friends. And I feel like that is why Dorit and Kyle got so close. Um, but I don't know, the whole Kyle situation and with the kids, I love Kyle, and she's one of
So
my
do
favorite
I.
housewives. So it makes me so sad. I feel like we've watched her family. I feel like we watched her family, from the beginning. Like we saw Portia; she was a tiny baby, and I hated seeing Portia cry like that. If that happened to my parents, I'm 32, I would be devastated.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh my God.
I can't. I honestly can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
It's
So
really
I
sad.
just feel so bad. It's
I
so
know.
sad.
I think that the point you made about the being PK Mauricio not being there to sort of like, because they were kind of friends as couples, like that they
Yeah,
would go
they
on
were.
couples trips, they would have those dinners that they would be filming, and like that's a really good point. I don't think they haven't really talked about that factor on the show when it comes to like what's changed in their friendship. It's like Mauricio and Kyle don't really hang out anymore, even though they're still married,
Yeah,
and PK and Dorit are also all having trouble because PK is always in London for like months at a time. So now it's just them
yeah.
and they don't know how to act. It's almost like they would. That's really interesting. It's either cameras or husbands. And now that like when neither are around, what do they do?
Yeah, yeah, because I do think I feel like a lot of the times when we saw them hanging out, like the husbands were always there,
Yeah,
and so
you're
I
right.
kind of think they're the common denominator. And like I said, I mean PK's gone a lot, and I still feel like PK and Mauricio, I feel like they still might hang out a little
Yeah,
bit, but
probably, but
obviously, guys,
not
they
with the
they don't
wives.
post every single thing that they do. Like they're not going to go if they go golfing or something. They may not post about it, and we may have no idea. But obviously, girls, I mean, we see Kyle and Dorit, they post every single thing they do. So,
Right. Totally.
yeah, I don't
I
know.
know.
It makes me sad kind of, but I don't know. And
Yeah.
do you think Kyle will come back next season?
I've thought of Kyle this year as sort of like I've realized like she can't really help her. Like this is shit's so ingrained in her to like be on the show and be forthcoming and like be as honest as she thinks that she
Yeah,
can. Like when she goes and Watch What Happens Live, she says things that like a normal person might not share, but like she just has to share it. It's like in her bones. I don't know if she has it in her to step away right now.
that's what I think
I
too.
think that
But
it's really hard for her, but it's almost like this masochistic thing where she has to put herself through it. And I think she also knows she's been through 13, 14 seasons now.
mhm,
She knows that like it can only get better for her right now, I think, in terms of like how because right now like people are turning on her because she's like not being they think she's not being forthcoming about the Morgan stuff and the Mauricio stuff. And we've seen
mhm.
clips from Buying Beverly Hills where like Mauricio is like having all these really forthcoming conversations about it, which is really interesting. And so people are kind of turning on her a little bit. But like once
Mhm.
people if they turn on you, they're going to turn back eventually. You know what I mean? So I think that
Yeah,
maybe she sees that
true.
she could have like a redemption season Now, I don't know. I don't know, but I hope we don't lose her because I think that people don't want to admit it, but she is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Like she is the anchor. She's not always like an alpha character, but she is. It's her town. Like you know what I mean?
It
It's
is her
like
town. She's the glue, I think. I think she's the glue
the
for
glue.
Beverly Hills and has been since the beginning. Obviously, especially once Lisa Vanderpump left, it's like Kyle has been there since the beginning. She is very well connected. She's friends with all of them, and
Yeah.
and really, you don't see a lot of people say they don't get along with Kyle. I feel like, I mean, they might have issues with her, but no one genuinely like. I feel like really, really dislikes her. Like I mean, I could be wrong. I can't think of somebody at the top of my head though.
Right.
And so I would be really sad if Kyle didn't
Me
come
too.
back. I wouldn't necessarily blame her, but I feel like as an OG, she deserves like at least some sort of a send off and like a redemption story. So if she is kind of on the tail end of her housewives career, I feel like we need that.
I would not love if this was the way that Kyle left the show. I would not
Me
love
either. I would
that.
hate it. I would
Yeah.
hate it.
What do you think of Kathy coming to the reunion? What do you feel about that? What do you
So
think? I mean, like,
random.
is it just like a random stunt that we're just like, okay, hunky dory's
I
here?
just like why did she show up? I literally don't understand. I seriously still don't understand. She did not film 1 second of the entire
Mm-mm.
season. I don't hate that she showed up. I mean, I find
No,
Kathy entertaining, but I don't know. Like, was Kyle like, I want Kathy to come so everyone knows that we're in a good place and she can kind of like defend me, or is Bravo like, please come so we can get you on next season? Like, I don't know.
I
I
don't
really
know.
don't know.
And I maybe it's because they couldn't get Mauricio to come. I don't know. Which is like
Oh,
again,
maybe.
I don't. I think that's the other thing. It's sort of like again, I love Kyle and I hope she sticks around, but I kind of think that
Yeah.
like if she was somebody who hadn't been on for 13 seasons,
Oh,
they probably would have forced Mauricio to come. But I think that
for
because
sure.
she has this sort of like, earned elevated status at the network and on the show,
Yeah.
Mauricio doesn't have to come to the reunion and have a sit down with Andy. You know what I mean? But which I would have loved to see, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
No,
we got on
I
by Beverly
agree.
Hills.
I know. God. I mean, and it's like that's all we're seeing. I'm like, well, I'm definitely tuning in like the second it drops. I mean, he is sharing so much on that show. I mean, the fact that he was like, well, you're the one that wanted the separation. I'm like, oh, like she's not gonna like that you said that.
Nope. Nope.
Fuck.
Nope.
And like all the girls filming. I mean, yeah, I
Uh,
can't wait to watch that. But yeah, I do feel like Kyle does get, and I don't even necessarily care, but that's because
no, I
I
don't
like
care
Kyle.
either.
I do think she gets a little bit of a pass from the network, from Andy, from everybody. I mean, she probably goes on Watch Happens Live and it's like, I'm not going to answer that. So just like, I don't ask. And
Yeah.
I know Andy really likes her. And I don't know. I feel like I see a lot of people say that they're annoyed with her. She hasn't shared like anything this season. She's just running around in circles. And I do feel like she has shared things, but then you see the Beverly Hills or Buying Beverly Hills clips, and I'm like, oh, she hasn't shared that much at all in comparison. We've
I would
only seen
love
a
to
30
see,
second clip.
wouldn't you love to see like a comparison timelines of the filming of these two
Yeah,
shows? Because I'm curious, were they happening at the same time? Was it a
I know.
contractual thing? Was Mauricio not really locked into this because he knew he wanted to share on his turf it's very
Oh, maybe.
complicated. I would love to read some long
That's a
expose
good point.
about that,
Wait, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Maybe Mauricio was like,
because
"Well,
he wants
I
his
want
show
I
to
want
do
my
well.
show to succeed."
I'm guessing he's a producer on that show and he wants the tea for his show. So that's another factor. I don't know. It's a very complicated mess that doesn't make it makes you very
Eh,
sad, but I obviously want to watch all of the footage that we have
oh,
of it.
duh.
So
Yeah, I want to see every single detail that we can. But
yeah.
yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to Potomac, which is
Okay.
we don't need to spend that much time on it because it's just having a very tough season, I think. And like I'm not having fun talking about Potomac. And in the past, I've always
Yeah,
had fun talking about it. I've had fun watching it. And this season I'm watching it to keep up, but I'm not watching it for fun. I will say
yeah,
the cast trip to the Dominican Republic, I'm actually enjoying it more than the rest of the season, but because it's like slightly lighter, it's slightly more dynamic, but like the bar is pretty low right now with Potomac, which is really sad. But where are you netting out on
yeah.
Potomac this year?
I'm the same. I I watch it and I hate to say it feels like a chore, but it kind of does. I don't, it's on, first of all, Sundays I have a hard time with
I
because I
know.
feel like I come I'm traveling a lot lately. I have so many weddings and things this spring. So I feel like Sundays I have a hard time with. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's Tuesday. I haven't watched Potomac yet. And
Right.
that's not
Same.
normally how I am. So that's not good. And I just feel like they've got to do something with the cast. I feel like it's just not meshing, it's not flowing. And it makes me sad because I mean, Potomac is an amazing franchise and I love all
Hmm.
the cast members, but I'm like, something's not working.
Hmm.
This season has been tough. And like nothing's really happened
No,
too.
nothing's
It's like
happened.
I mean, it just doesn't make me excited. Like you said, it doesn't make me excited to talk about Potomac. And
Yeah.
I feel like kind of everyone's on the same page with that. So
Yeah. So yeah, because there are just like
yeah.
so many people who don't want to engage with one another on the cast. Like so, there's so many different ones.
Yeah. I
You know,
mean, I know
we're not in charge of these
right.
decisions, but who do you like see as somebody who like, or a couple of people who you, if they didn't come back, maybe it would help kind of loosen up the dynamic and open things up
Mm.
again.
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I love Karen, so obviously I think she should
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think she's the only one that I get
She's
excited
playing
about
both sides.
watching right
Yeah,
now.
totally.
But I love Karen, and I love Giselle too. I mean, I think she's a good housewife. She's not my favorite, but I like Giselle as a housewife, I guess. I mean, Robin is interesting to me. I don't know how I feel about Robin. I'm like kind of indifferent to her, and I feel like we don't see Robin. Like she just hides so much that they all kind of do. Like they all
Hmm.
kind of either hide stuff or they won't talk to people or they won't move forward. So Robin is interesting. I know she's been on since the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, she's been on since
OG.
season one. Yeah. So I don't know. Robin is an interesting one. Even like Candace, I'm like, I don't even know what I just don't this whole season's been so weird to
I
me. I
know.
don't even know
There's
what's
very little
happened.
personal storyline. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
I think it'd
what
be
do you
interesting
think?
I think it'd be interesting to see a Giselle without Robin. I think that would
Hmm.
be they've been a duo and they still have their
Yeah.
podcast, but I think that Robin had this like opportunity this season to, you know, she had coming into the filming, she had the whole thing with Juan. She had all of that. He didn't help by not really wanting to film about it, but she also didn't fully open up. I don't feel like she didn't take the opportunity to like kind of be the star of the season. And to me, that
Hmm.
tells me everything I need to know about like what we're going to get going forward from her. And like, I'm just sort of
Yeah.
like,
Totally.
okay, if you take her out of the equation, Giselle doesn't have this like, you know, ride or die with her anymore. How does she
Hmm.
react to that? Who can fill Robin's spot? I don't know. I think that's somebody who I could see
Yeah.
it helping to not come back. I get frustrated. I love Wendy, but I get frustrated with watching her this season because
Oh,
it feels like she won't engage with NECA. She won't engage with Giselle. That's also really tough for me. So I'm like, if we're not engaging with people, like that's part of the job. You know what I mean?
this is your job. Yeah. And that's what's so frustrating at Potomac, I think, right now, because it's like, this is still your job. You're still getting paid to do all this. And like, you're really not showing up to work.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I can't imagine like going to my like former job and just like not talking to my coworker, like
Right.
ever. Just being
Right.
like, she's right there and I'm just like gonna ignore her. Or like
Mm.
it's like it's a weird
Yeah.
dynamic
And it's
and it
not
doesn't work for
fun.
the screen.
It's
No,
not
it's not
fun.
fun to watch.
No.
Yeah. So yeah,
Mm.
Wendy, you're right. Wendy, Robin, Mia. Now I am interested in her because now she has her new man
Uh-huh.
who is like connected to Ti. I'm like obsessed with Ti. So I know, true though.
Learn more about
So
you every day. Yeah, I love that.
well, I like rap. So and Ti is this is so random and very off topic. But in high school, I listened to his album every single day, like for like a year. Like so,
Like
like
the Whatever
people
You
like
Like album.
Paper Trail. Yeah. So like it's
Favorite
so
trail.
funny because like people like one of my friends saw Ti and like at a restaurant in St. Louis and they immediately like, oh my God, thought of you, saw Ti. I was like, I
That
love
is
that.
so funny.
I know.
Ti stand up in here.
100%. So basically, when I was stalking Mia's new boo, I was like, "Oh, he's like friends with Ti. That's actually very interesting to me." So I'm interested in Mia, and she got first seat next to Andy.
Hmm. She did get
So
first
I
seat.
mean, I thought that was really interesting. I'm sure Giselle was pissed.
I think it's Mia, yeah, I agree. It's like I think maybe a season or two ago I wouldn't have felt this way. I would have been like, okay, she
Same.
kind of is kind of disposable in terms of her what she contributes to the show. But now it's like she's not always fully upfront or honest, I don't think, but
No.
like she's this code that I don't think we've cracked yet, and you never
Yeah.
really know what you're gonna get from her, which, as we know, makes for good reality TV. So I
Yeah.
think that she's not somebody who's closed off with anybody in terms of like being their friend or
Yeah.
anything. I think that she would do anything what it takes to like help the show and be on the show. So I
Oh,
think Potomac needs that right
anything.
now. So keep Mia.
Yeah. I would keep Mia. But you are so right though. Like she doesn't open up about everything. And honestly, I don't think anyone on the cast does.
No.
Like I feel like that's kind of that's not good. And that's I feel like what this season between them not talking to each other and then them not opening up, it's just been a tough watch. And I
Yeah.
don't know where they go unless they let some people go.
I know.
So
And then even if you think about Giselle, it's like we had that scene in like the premiere of the second episode of her and Jason at her house.
oh
And then no, but then we didn't see or hear about him for like 10 episodes. He might have been on like a FaceTime at one point, but like and then we hear, oh yeah, like we're it's a situationship. We're okay, we're allowed to like hook up with other people or whatever. Like so we haven't heard about him and it's
no,
weird. It's bizarre.
it's
It's bizarre.
so weird. Well, I don't even think they're together. I don't
Yeah.
think I think it's a total fake relationship. I know she said situationship, but I still think it's totally fake. And I think he has a girlfriend. So
Really?
I think so. I think he's been dating somebody for like a year.
Hmm.
I mean, people have even sent me photos of this girl. And
Wow.
so I just think the whole thing is fake. And
Spilling the
I
tea.
I mean, yeah, and it's funny because I mean, I'm not out here to like, post this girl and like ruin her life.
No, of
Obviously,
course
I can't
not.
even honestly can't even remember who sent them, what she looks like. I mean, and that's my fault because
But
I
you've
didn't
gotten
save the
something.
photos. But yeah, I've gotten several people that are like, I guess there's like tweets, like maybe Jason's even tweeted the girlfriend. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like, what are they trying to do here? Like, I really think
Yeah.
it's a fake relationship.
Well, he's trying to
Yeah,
stay on TV because he was not
yeah,
asked to be on Summer House and Winter House doesn't exist anymore. So or it's on pause. So
it's on pause. Yeah, you
right.
know what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
God,
Well, I feel like that's
Jason.
a good transition for us to go and to talk about Summer House. This
Oh,
season I think the season's going to be really great. I feel like you can tell that like we're it's not as dark as last season. The new guys are bringing like really good energy. I think we're still going to get some like good drama from the Lindsay and Carl of it all, the Kyle of Amanda
yeah.
of it
Oh,
all. I feel like it's going to be a much more balanced. Whereas like last year it was good drama with Lindsay and Danielle, but it made me sad and it felt dark and like there
there's
just
a
wasn't
lot.
good vibes. How are you feeling at the very early stages of this season of season 8 of Summer House?
I am with you. Last season, I was kind of over Summer House, and this season, I am really excited about it. I love the two new guys.
Me too.
West, I'm obsessed with. I think he is like perfect casting, and he fits in right away with everybody. I just really like his vibe. And Jesse seems great too. So I love the new guys, and I think that show desperately needed like some single guys to come in
Yes.
and like stir the pot because it's been a while since we've had. I know they had like Corey and like the Chris and all of that, but I just don't feel like they were as good of a fit as like West and Jesse
No.
right away. And we've only had one episode, and
Yeah.
I feel like right away they fit in. And then I agree, the Lindsay and Carl, you could like see that they all the tension that they had when they were talking about going to DC. I was
Yeah.
cringing.
I think we're gonna
Yeah,
see, as promised, I think people were saying this. We are gonna see some of what led up to that decision at the end of the summer, which to everybody as viewers was it felt like a huge shock, and even to Lindsay, it felt like a huge shock. But clearly there were things that were happening in their relationship.
right.
I feel like the perspectives are going to be like, were these issues that they could overcome and still get married and work through, or were they like relationship ending issues? And I think that's kind of the big debate, I guess, and the two different perspectives. But I'm not like necessarily excited to watch that, but
I know.
I'm looking forward to like hearing to just getting more information and to like having more color filled in around the situation in terms of what happened this summer because we don't know anything. We really don't know
Mhm.
anything about what, but we just have heard, oh, they had issues, you'll see, yada yada yada.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know it makes me sad because I obviously I feel like Lindsay felt really blindsided, and
100%.
um they haven't really said much about it. I mean, I feel like Craig has said quite a few things about it, like,
Hmm.
and other people, and I it make I don't want to say excited, but kind of excited to like see it play out
Yeah.
just because I'm messy. So I want to see it all play out, but it makes me glad that Danielle and Lindsay are friends again.
100%.
So that's a great plus. And obviously Amanda and Kyle, I mean, that was very concerning. Their whole
And it's going to continue. I mean,
ah
I see people sometimes say online that like they're tired of the Amanda and Kyle of it all. It's like, oh,
oh
another season of Amanda and Kyle. But I actually, there's something about the relationship that I just find fascinating, and the way
yeah,
that like I feel like the X factor of it is like how filming exacerbates their issues or kind of starts issues between them, because it's, we see I think Amanda doesn't love talking about some of this stuff on camera when there's like cameras in the corner of the room and it's like they're fighting and she's like aware of that. Kyle gets drunk
yeah.
and doesn't think about it. It's this interesting dynamic, and I still find it to be interesting to watch.
Oh, same. I like Amanda and I like Kyle.
Same.
I I them as a couple, obviously they've gotten over some hurdles, but they definitely seem very disconnected. And I think Amanda doesn't like love filming and doesn't like love the
I think so
whole
too.
aspect of that. But Kyle obviously like thrives off of it. I mean, he like loves attention. He loves the filming. He
He's a
loves like the
Leo.
fame,
Yeah,
and he's good at it too. I mean,
he
he was
is.
like made for TV, and I feel like Amanda, she is just kind of like I think she's kind of over it, and also I think she's kind of over Kyle, like in his 40s acting this way. Like I think
Yeah.
she's like, look, you say you want to spend time with me, and then you spend time with this banana. Like I was laughing. I was dying.
No, that was
I was
funny.
actually dying over it. But still, I mean, like if I
No,
if
I
I were
know.
Amanda, I'd go crazy.
I feel the same way,
As
but
a viewer, I
yeah,
like
I
it.
feel like it's sort of like it's this necessary evil for them. I bet you that I'm guessing the mentality is sort of like let's stick with this until
Oh,
the air runs out of it, and we can just milk it for as much money as possible and grow our business and all these
100%.
things. But it had at a certain point, the emotions of it are going to catch up, or are catching up to them, I think. And it's
Yeah.
like, how do you balance that sort of moving forward? I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. No, if I were them, I would ride this till the wheels fall off
Oh my
because
God.
you make so much money from being on a show. Oh my gosh, that drives me. That's one of the questions I get a lot is like, well, what's their job? I'm like, well, this is their job. And
It's
and
their
not just Amanda
job.
and Kyle, but like
No, it's all their
seriously, like I get
jobs.
it. I get it for about so many people. The people are like, well, it's really weird like Lala doesn't have a job. I'm like, Lala does have a job. She's a cast member on a show and she has a podcast
She
and she
sells
has merch
merch.
and like she has all these things. And it's like it's the same thing with the summer house. They're like, well, what's their job? I'm like, oh my
That's
gosh, guys,
so
like they make
interesting.
so much money. Like I don't know how much they make, but they make a lot. And so
And
why would
and
you
and the
not
longer you're on a show, the
continue
more money you
this?
make too.
Yeah. I'm like, if I mean, Kyle, especially being like an OG, kind of like starting Winter House, I feel like Kyle's kind of like the backbone of Summer House. So him and Lindsay, I feel like are really
Yeah,
like the
I think so
two,
too.
obviously. Because Carl, to me, I mean, God bless him. The man's just not as good as TV, in my opinion. But Kyle Cook, I mean, he is excellent TV. He is kind of friends with everybody, gets along with everybody, he parties, like, and that's kind of what the show is supposed to be about. So
Yeah,
I think he understands the assignment. And will their marriage survive? I don't know, but I
I
hope it
hope
does
so.
because
I hope
I
I hope
I
that
like
they
them
did
a
again.
lot.
Yeah, I hope it sticks out through filming whenever that finishes for them, if it ever does, and
Yeah.
then they can settle down a little bit. But I agree, it's like sort of like Kyle and Lindsay are they're pretty similar people, I would say, in a lot
Mhm.
of ways, and they're both kind of roller coasters, but ultimately over the years it's been pretty consistent. We know what to expect from Lindsay and Kyle. They're
Yeah.
gonna, I think, maybe sometimes at the detriment to their own relationships, they're gonna
Oh,
give
for
us
sure.
good TV. They're gonna give us party. They're gonna give us drama
Hmm.
because they can't help themselves. And I love that
Oh, they
about
can't.
them, but I also understand how
Same.
that can impact their relationship. So I don't know. It's a tough
Yeah.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's
yeah.
good.
Wait, Maggie, the last thing I wanted to ask you about Summer House. So Paige was on Watch What Happens Live this week,
Mm,
and she said
mhm,
that
I watched
a
that.
blonde housewife told her that she makes horrible decisions, quote, and looked her up and down. But she didn't say who the housewife was. You posted on your Instagram story who you think
Mhm.
it is. Who do you think it is and
Yes,
why?
I think it's Caroline Stanbury from Dubai because I think I remember Paige saying this. Like I would not post it if I was not
Yeah.
fairly certain. It was after I remember it was not after the last one. It was after the second one in New York. And Paige was talking about it was kind of like the same story. And like I think she said it was
But she
Caroline.
said the
And
name.
she was like she said it was like really disappointing because like she loved like Ladies of London and she was excited she's gonna be a Dubai housewife and like she loves her fashion and all of that. And yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't remember where, when, like
But
what,
you're not
I don't
making
know,
this
but
up.
no. Yeah, it was Caroline. As far as I know, as far as I remember. I
Well,
mean, I hate to be like it was Caroline and then she's gonna say like it wasn't, but
well, listen, fourth annual
she said it.
BravoCon. If there is a squash that beef between Paige and Caroline Stanbury, we have you to thank for that. So
Oh, and then watch she'll be like, that's not even true. I'll be like, it what I remember. I
you
remember.
you
Like
get
I
dragged on stage.
oh God. Oh, I would be like I would be eaten alive. Oh gosh. Yeah. No, it's so funny because people are like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, I really like remember her saying that, but it was after it was just it was so long ago. It was after the second one.
Got it.
It wasn't after the last one. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Hmm.
pretty
Okay,
interesting.
so yeah, very interesting. I love that kind of back channel between
Same.
show stuff. It's the best.
Same.
Okay, lastly, again, I don't think we need to spend too much time on it, but Vanderpump Rules. Do you agree with a lot of
Oh,
the internet of this season of Vanderpump Rules just isn't giving what you want it to give?
yes. And it makes me so sad because I do feel like we're kind of on the tail end of Vanderpump Rules. And I don't know if I've ever said that about a show before,
Hmm.
but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And, after Scandival, that was such a high. And I knew the season was going to be different. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be like a Scandival level. But the fact that it really is all like for Lisa, like they're all going to Lake Tahoe. They've all forgiven Sandoval. They were all so mad at him.
Hmm.
And it just doesn't feel authentic. It feels very forced. Even there was a little montage of them swimming in the water. Brock had like a camera underwater. They were laying on the rocks. I was like, what is this? This is not a
Right.
movie. Like, I
It's like
don't
a
need to
music
see this. I
video.
want to see them arguing. Like, this is weird. And it just feels a little fake.
I agree. I mean that like it was like when they were sitting there on that dock in Tahoe, Lisa came down for like 20 seconds to give Graham to James and then
Ugh.
left. And it was just like this weird, this is gonna be the big moment of like he gets his dog back. And it's like, I don't really care. Like I don't really care that if that's the
Yeah.
big like reveal, I don't know. It's not clicking. And I think I would just
No.
rather, I mean, I'd rather them share their real feelings and like come at Sandoval still because it just feels like they're holding back for like the sake of like being in the same place as him. And it just feels
Yeah.
like, I don't know, inauthentic.
It feels very inauthentic. And it's like, I don't know how they all feel with him now. I mean, I honestly think like they're all pretty fine with him,
Yeah, I
like for
think
the
so too.
most part. But it's just weird because it was like obviously we left off in a very different place, and this wasn't that far. It wasn't that long after the reunion that this was all happening. So it just feels very inauthentic. And, you know, the audience is kind of like clearly Tom Sandoval is not remorseful at all. He's doing all these interviews still present day where he doesn't care. And like if that's his journey, fine. But I just like the rest of the cast, they clearly don't care either. So it just feels very inauthentic. It feels a little scripted. And I obviously I know reality TV is a little like they bring
It's
situations
produced.
together
Yeah,
to make it, but still, it just I don't know. When I was watching this week, I was like, this sucks. I was like, this makes me feel sad. I
it
feel like
wasn't
I
good.
feel like it's the show's dying. The episode was terrible, and I'm like, also, where are they gonna have drama if they're all fine with Sandoval? Where's the drama gonna come from? And like no
Where?
one's drinking.
No, and
So
that's all.
like,
Nobody's drinking. It's like, and again,
right,
totally. We've seen great sober
right.
reality stars before. That's not to
I'm
say that you
all for
can't
their
be.
people's,
Of
yeah.
course, 100%. But like,
I've,
it's just another factor in why it's feeling like it's failing to take off. And
yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything about this season that you think is interesting, or you like wish they would follow more, or is it really kind of just coming up zero to you?
Not, not really. Not unless they're real about Sandoval. Because even like Brock and Sheena, I'm just like, okay, like I don't know them in the store, like with
Mm,
the argument with the nanny and all that. I want to like Brock. I want to like Brock, but something about him I've always felt is just a little off. And maybe it's because he left his children in Australia. I don't
mm,
know, but I can't get past something's off about Brock to me. But I'm just kind of like I don't even care necessarily. Like
right.
I feel like none of them are really bringing it. Even like the sandwich shop. I mean, I walked by the sandwich shop last month in LA. There wasn't a sandwich shop. It was an empty building,
Wow.
empty. Like,
That's crazy.
and so I'm kind of like, what's going on with it? It just feels inauthentic. Like, are they actually opening this? What's going on? Like, because I mean, this was filmed a long time ago and there's still no shop. And I
Hmm.
understand things happen, permits, all of that, but
That's
there was
weird.
nothing. There was nothing in
Wow.
there. And there were like signs on the door and all that.
For
It's in
something
a really good
about signs on the door for
location.
something about her, or signs to like
Something
rent
about
it.
her.
Wow.
Or I don't know if there, I don't know, it was a signs to rent it, but it was just like, they were just
Like
like,
nothing's happening here.
did, nothing was going on there. And it was in a good location though. I'm not super familiar with LA, but it was right around like Sur and all of that, I
Right.
feel like when we were
Oh, Santa
walking.
Monica.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so but it was just interesting because I'm like, this happened a long time ago, and there's a lot of talk about getting the sandwich shop ready. And I know things happened as we heard, like with permits, but why is there still no sandwich shop? And then it's like, okay, even Sandoval, and it's I don't know. I just feel like they've all forgiven him, or even if they haven't forgiven him, they're acting like they have for the sake of the show. And it's like that's great. If you really did forgive him, that's great. Like honestly, move on, that's fine. But it just all feels so inauthentic.
Yeah.
I
It's
hate
also
it.
like if you forget, like they're all coexisting with him in the same space, but it's almost like they're holding back what they really feel. So
Yeah.
it's like if you want to forgive him and you think that Ariana has overreacted and like and things like that, say that. But none of them are really
Yeah.
saying that. They're like, oh, like we want to go on a trip and do a getaway, but like we still don't like Sandoval, but like we're gonna be having dinner with him. It's like they can't. I don't feel like we're getting the full opinions of all these
No.
people. And like I had Kate Casey on a couple weeks ago, and
Oh,
she brought
love
up a good
her.
point. Like she brought up a good point though, is like one way I think they could have saved this is like let's talk about more about like the selling of the merch and the different businesses and the podcast and like the jealousy and the competition that arises from that and like
Yeah.
break the fourth wall that like these people are reality stars and they are trying to stay famous and maintain their show and like but they're not talking about any of that and I think
Nope.
that would be interesting at least. Like it might not be the most dramatic, but at least it would be like, oh, like we're learning things about their lives that I don't know. I now I feel like I'm grasping for straws. You know what I mean?
I know. I know. That is a good point though, because I know I know you're the same way. Like we like all the like background stuff. And so we see them all posting. I mean, the whole reason Scandival, I feel like, took off the way it did was because they were all posting so
Right.
much on
They were
social
fanning the
media.
flames.
Like yeah. And I mean, I was living for that. I mean,
Of
I
course.
literally was like, oh, I can't keep up with how much the cast is posting. And so, I mean, Sandoval did kind of bring it up, but they didn't really go for it. And it's like,
Go for
okay,
it.
like, yeah, you made merch, like, just go for it. Be like, yeah, like I'm trying to like feed my child. Like I made $1 million off this merch. Like, why would I not do that? And even like James, I feel like James is really holding back. James has amazing
Yes.
confessionals, but right now he's like holding back against Sandoval. And it's like, is this seriously like for Lisa? That's like seriously how it feels like. It feels like they all went there to film the show. None of them are really friends besides like Schwartz and Sandoval. And I think like Lala and Sheena are friends. But besides that,
Yeah.
it's like we've never needed Jax Taylor more.
but now we're getting him on a
And I know
separate
we're
show
getting
that
him.
all, but now we're getting on a
I know,
separate
but
show that just looks pretty bleak, honestly. Like the
I know
trailer for that came out and I'm just like,
it cracked me up.
Jesus. Like honestly, I just would have rather them bring Kristen Jackson Brittany onto Vanderpump Rules again and just like had them
Yeah,
try to claw for their life on the show. Like that would have again,
exactly.
I don't love Jax. He has me blocked on Twitter. Like
Oh,
but
oh,
he
same.
ultimately he is like
He's a
he's good reality
good
TV. You know what I mean?
villain.
Yeah, he's a great villain, and
Yeah,
they
he's
and now they have a villain on the show that's basically a shell of a human being, and they need somebody like even Lala. I'm like, you have it in you.
yeah,
Lala has it in her. She is great at her job when she's great at it, but right now
yeah.
she's biting her tongue, and it's just like she's not
It's
known for
not.
biting her tongue. You know?
It's not fun.
No.
It's like okay, like we went from such a high and now it's like it's such a low and I feel like I feel I don't know if it's the last season or what, but it feels really like we're on the tail end of Vanderpump Rules and I would have never thought that because I know the ratings are still good,
The
but
ratings are still good,
I
but I
don't
think
know
that's
where
kind of like the
they go
trickle
from
effect
here.
from last year. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like where do they
Mm.
go from here? They have not introduced any new characters. You know, the cast I don't really think hangs out a lot. Sandoval's so hated. You know, I have a soft spot for Schwartz. God bless him. I mean, he's a
Hmm.
mess, but I feel like he doesn't know how to be inauthentic
No,
uh,
he can't
because
help himself.
he can't help it. Like he's so desperate to be liked. Katie's like so right about that. He's so desperate to be liked by people that he doesn't know how to be authentic. He just wants everyone to like him, and so I feel like Schwartz is kind of he's the only one that's like kind of
He's actually
giving a
stepping up
little
this
bit
year,
of
I would say.
something.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
agree. Like he gets a lot of
but
airtime this season because he's at least opening up about he's sharing his true feelings, and I feel like you really feel that. And
yeah.
kudos to him, I guess, about that.
Caduce,
Yeah,
Caduce,
kudos. Okay, well,
Caduce.
Maggie, I feel like
Yeah,
we've covered all of our bases. I've taken a lot of your time,
yeah,
so but thanks for doing this. This is so much fun. I feel like we're in different stages with some of these shows. Like some are really giving, some of them
yeah,
are really not, but um.
yeah.
I guess we'll see. We'll see.
It's been a good year, like the past year overall,
Yeah.
though.
Oh my God.
So you
We've been
know,
well fed.
I'll take it.
I'll take
Yeah,
it
I'll
too.
take it.
I'll take it too. Maggie, where can people follow you on social media? Plug all the things before we sign off.
Yeah, you can follow me at Best of Bravo. And it's just, you know, it's like a fun little space, talk about Bravo and some other things. And yeah, it's fun. I love talking with you. Can't wait to see you again.
I know. Can confirm Best of Bravo is a very fun space to talk about all the things. It's
I try.
and the comment sections get good too.
Oh my gosh, yes. I actually do usually read the comments, and sometimes I have to delete some if they're really
Yeah.
unruly. And I
Yeah.
don't see everything, but I do live for an
Yeah.
unhinged comment
Listen.
section
Listen.
about Leah McSweeney.
Oof. I'm honestly glad
We
we
can't
didn't
even
talk
get
about
into it.
that. No, I don't want to even talk
We
about that.
we honestly can't even get
Doesn't
into
deserve the
her.
airtime, I don't think.
Who?
So,
Who? Leah? Who? Never heard of her.
okay. Well, Maggie, we'll talk again soon, and thanks for doing this.
Of course.
I want to gab.